Hey YouTube, it's Widgie here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build a beginner-friendly deck from scratch. Without further ado, let's roll the intro. Right, okay, so this is primarily for the beginner and amateur players of Gwent. Just to let everyone know, a few disclaimers about myself and how long I've been playing Gwent. I've probably been playing Gwent for around 15 hours now. On the ranked matchmaking, I am now a rank 22, so yes, very inexperienced still. I don't know all of the cards off by heart. I haven't unlocked all of the cards. I've spent no real money on this game either, so it's all through the own in-game currency and just progressing in the game and opening as many kegs as possible. So that's the first disclaimer. Second disclaimer is there may be some cards I'm showing you do not currently have unlocked. All I can say is just try and use the beginner deck that the game gives you first. Also have a look online because there are some videos where those decks are slightly tweaked with cards that you will have to give you that slight advantage. And just try and progress through as much as possible. The game is very generous and will give you lots of reward points to spend on kegs to get you more cards. What I can suggest is as well is stick to one faction. I'm going to show you a monster faction deck here that you can build from scratch. So just focus on one faction, open as many kegs of that faction as possible, and sooner or later you'll start to get some nice gold rare cards that will help your deck. Anyway, with all that aside, disclaimers out the way, let's jump straight into it. So what I'm thinking I'm going to build a new deck for my monster faction. So at the moment I've got my main one there at the top left, as you can see, called Thrive Alive, and that works off the Thrive mechanic a lot. So what I'm thinking, I've recently unlocked a couple of cards, especially this one here, which is the Detlaf Higher Vampire card that has a really significant Death Wish ability. So what I'm going to try and do is maybe make a deck that's primarily around Death Wish cards and also cards that are able to consume those cards. Because as you can see here, a Death Wish it triggers the ability when it's destroyed or moved from the battlefield to the graveyard. So I'm going to need something to destroy these cards. And the best thing to do that within the monster faction is an element called Consume. So the easiest way to do it, and if you don't want to play monster and if you are interested in other factions, what I really suggest that you do is simply go through all the cards. So even if you don't own them, go through absolutely every card, have a look, try and understand and figure out what the abilities of these cards are, what the factions do that's slightly different to other factions, and then try and see if you can find synergies. And what I mean by synergies is you want to find cards that will help other cards and give you even more points and increase the base value of the card, which is 5. For here, for example, it's 5. So what you want to do is, if I want to work on Death Wish and I need to consume cards, then I know I need to search for two main terms. One is Death Wish, one is Consume. So first of all, let's go straight to New Deck. I'm going to select Monster. And this is the first thing you might sort of want to select first so that you can then build from it. Or you might want to just select one for now, and then maybe once you've built your deck, then you can maybe adjust the leader ability if you want to. As I say, another disclaimer, I'm not a pro at this game. I've not sunk a lot of hours into it. I'm just trying to provide some advice and help to the beginner and amateur players like myself. So if we have a look here, we have the basic ones and we have more advanced. So don't be put off by the basic and advanced and think that you possibly can't, do any of this. So what you can see here is if you look down all the leader abilities, they're all slightly different in what they do. So you can see here, for example, Blood Scent. It's give an enemy unit bleeding. Once all charges are used up, you spawn a vampire. So, for example, if you're like, okay, well, what could that be good for? If you could then go into the cards, you could then type the keyword bleeding in, have a look at loads of cards that provide bleeding. Also, vampire, the type or the species of the card or type of card, whatever you want to call it, the type of creature, you can type that in and maybe you can find a card that synergizes and does something if you have a certain number of vampires. And there you go, you've got a blood scent sort of deck that, might work, it might not, who knows. But as I say, I'm going to look at Death Wish, so I'm going to pick this ability here, Overwhelming Hunger. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's got 3 charges and it destroys an allied unit. So it essentially consumes that unit, or not consume, it just destroys it, and then it will spawn an Ekimara or Ekimara in its row and boost it by the destroyed unit's power. So essentially it is a consume +2. So it's 3 charges of a consume ability +2 power on top. So quite significant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a deck around that. There we go. It's just called Overwhelming Hunger. I'm just going to call it, I don't know, just something really cheesy like Death Consume or something like that. I don't know. So it works off the Death Wish and the Consume element. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to find all Death Wish cards like that. Okay, so obviously I don't want to look at the cards that I currently don't have access to. So I'm going to go over to, where is it? It should be ownership, shouldn't it? What's going on here? Ownership. Hang on, if I come out of here first and then I go to owned, there you go. Maybe you can't. Okay, you can't actually filter it when you search for something. Okay, so anything in grey, like grey scaled cards, I'm not interested in. So this is actually a really good scenario card. Unfortunately, I don't have it yet. So, you know, it means it's not going to be that powerful, this deck for me just yet. But as I say, it's all about trial and error. Don't worry if you create a deck and you lose the first couple of matches or maybe even the first 4 or 5 matches. Just try and work with it, and then you'll know if there's something significantly wrong, or if you just feel like you're not getting the card that you want, or there's just no synergizing, nothing's going on. So that will only take time. I mean, I'm already starting to try and understand it and trying to understand how a deck works, and then there's the other side of it, which is anticipating what your opponent's doing based on their faction and their leader ability and trying to guess what they're doing. So there's loads of things involved. So but yeah, let's just start right down from the bottom here. So let's go by Death Wish, and then there's Detlef here. So he's a very, very good card, and I'm going to go from the top down here. So I'm going to do top down. So I'm going to go down all the high value cards first, and then I'm going to look at the lower value cards. So Detlef I definitely want in. So if we have a look at Detlef quickly. So Death Wish. So you summon this unit from the graveyard to the same row. This ability is limited to 2 uses and does not refresh when it leaves the battlefield. So you only have 2 uses of it. However, if you were to use your leader ability twice on this, or maybe another card has a consume ability, it can use it on this. Then all it will do is if you use your leader ability, it will get rid of it, and then it'll add 2, so it'll become 7, and then it'll draw another 5 onto the board. So what it's going to do is it's going to add 2 and 5, so it adds 7, and then you can use the ability again and add another 7, so it'll add 14. So your leader ability from 2 charges will give you 14 points. So as I say, I don't know the best way to use this card, whether or not you want to use your leader ability on this or whether you want to use it on something else. But I'm going to put Detlef in here because he's pretty good. As I say, we have a couple of other cards that I don't have just yet. There is Goliath here, but if you look at Goliath, it says Death Wish. Your opponent summons the highest unit from their deck. So that's not ideal. That's not the best Death Wish. We might actually want to put him in there just because of his points here. He's got a lot of points, 10 points, and Goliath's quite a good overall card. It's used in quite a few decks. Let's move on. So we've got Weircat here. I think it's Weircat or Wercat or Veercat. So it has Thrive. So if we have a look, Thrive, you boost a unit by 1 whenever you play a unit with high power. So, if you're playing units with quite high power like Goliath, it will thrive. And it has a deploy ability, which means it damages all enemy units on the opposite row by 1. So, as I say, that's very good if you've got like Scoia'tael. I think Scoia'tael is how you pronounce it. It's like the elven, sort of dwarven sort of faction. They sometimes put down a lot of archers and a lot of elves on one row. So a really good thing would be maybe to have this card. And also you can see the Death Wish ability here once again. It will just repeat the deploy ability. So essentially that could do quite a lot of damage. Now I'm not too sure if I want this card in the deck, but I'm just going to put it in for now. What I suggest you do is you put quite a few cards in here until you get to the desired total number of cards. And the total number of cards up to the top left here is you need at least 25, and it's best to stick at 25. Now I'm not going to go into details as to why, but the most optimal number of cards you want is 25. You don't want any more than that. Provisions is essentially the amount of points you've got to use, is the cost of your cards. So that's the amount of points that you've got. You've got 164 provisions at the start. Okay, your leader ability will also add some provisions to your limit as well, depending on how powerful your leader ability is. So I've got 154 points left to spend, essentially. So you kind of want to get that down to, you want it to get down to 0 because you want it to be the most efficient deck as possible. So you've got as many points crammed in, you've spent all your money, you've got nothing left over. That's essentially what you want. Now, as I say, if you've just started the game, it might be quite difficult for you to actually use all your points. So when I was first starting off, I had a deck that had about 20 provisions left over. So don't worry if you can't fill it all in, because most likely you're not going to have many gold cards, and the golder cards tend to be the ones that are higher value, I think. Anyway, so we've got Detlef in, and we are going to put we're going to put Weircat in. Why not? He's got another Death Wish ability. The Pennington, there's also another Thrive. And this is very situational, because you can see here he summons a random 7-cost unit from your deck to a random allied row. So that means this is quite a good thinning card, which means that it will automatically pull another card out of your deck. And the reason that that's good is because of the fact you can then get to other cards, and there's a higher chance or a higher probability of drawing a card that you want. So Pennington's quite a popular card, I think, at the moment. So I'm going to put him in. That's another Thrive card as well. So we've got 2 Thrive cards here, which is kind of, interesting. There is another Abaya here, which is is a deploy ability, and he just triggers a Death Wish ability. So that could be quite good, because you could put the Weircat down, which is Thrive, put the Abaya down, because he's a higher value than the Weircat here, Weircat. It will boost by 1, and then you could trigger his ability, which would repeat the deploy ability. So that's kind of crazy. So you could work Abaya into this. So I don't know, I'm going to put Abaya in. I don't know if he's good. I don't know if he's going to be good in this deck. I'm going to have to try it out, and that's all I'm saying to you guys. So work with the synergies, work from the bottom up. Think about, what do I want to play with? Do I want to try and trigger Death Wish as much? Okay, so how do I do that? Well, there's an ability called Consume, which consumes the power of one of your other cards, and it essentially kills the card, so it dies. So therefore it will then perform its Death Wish ability. So therefore I'm going to work off those 2 sort of abilities, and hopefully those 2 will synergize. So that's what you got to try and think of. It's kind of a little bit difficult sometimes to get your head around, but once you start trying out the deck, then you'll know what's wrong. You know what sort of card that you're not using a lot, or doesn't feel like it needs to be in there, and you can just sort of tinker with it as you go on. Let's move on. So we've got the Rot Fiend here. Never played the Rot Fiend. So Death Wish, damage a random enemy unit by 4. I mean, is that good? I mean, it might be good. It is a bronze card, so it hasn't got the gold around the outside, and it's only costing 5, and it is a 4 for 5, so it's not bad. Usually, when you look at provision cost, to get the sort of average value out of it, you kind of want to be about 1. You kind of want to times that provision cost by about 1.2, something like that. So really, a 5, you sort of want to get 6 value out of it if you can. This Death Wish ability is really good, because if it damages a random enemy unit by 4, that's going to be 4 and another 4 as well. So that's going to be an 8 value card if you can trigger its Death Wish. So yeah, I think they're quite good. Quite cool little Rot Fiend cards. Puts 4 damage on the board. That's not too bad. This Bridge Troll is interesting, because this one boosts the highest allied unit by 4, which, could be anything. So I don't know about this Bridge Troll. I don't know if I want him on here. I mean, once again, he's got a good Death Wish ability, because, it provides a lot of value. But would I want to boost allies at all? That's the question. So I'm not too sure about Bridge Troll, so I'm going to leave him out for now. Desert Banshee. So this is actually has an order to consume. And consume is destroy a unit and boost itself by its power. If target is in the graveyard, you banish it instead. So that's quite good, because we need consume. So we're definitely going to, I think we're going to put the Banshee in here. Whenever you play a unit with the Death Wish ability, you boost stealth by 1. So that's even good. That's even better as well. So what you kind of want to do is put the Desert Banshee in the early round, in the early stage of the round, whether it's round 1, 2 or 3. And the reason you want to do that is because the more cards you play in that round with Death Wish ability, it will actually boost this card even more. So you'll get even more value out of the Desert Banshee. So, I mean, I don't know whether I need to put 2 down. I mean, maybe because we need that consume ability, don't we? The Harpy Egg you'll get in your beginner deck. It's a very, very good card, and it synergizes very well with the Harpy. I think it's called the Harpy, the one that the 5 point card that actually will eat this. So what I suggest you just get both harpies. They're very, very nice little cards, these, because they transform from a 3 to a 5. So yeah, not a bad little card. So we've got these guys here. I can't even pronounce them. The Miorilorn. Can't really pronounce it. Deploy. So trigger a bronze allied unit's Death Wish ability. So we have one here which is a Bayer, which is a 6 cost card, and that's just an extra point, and it's got Thrive. So you might want to think, maybe, like, do we need a Bayer? Maybe you might want to take a Bayer out and put 2 of these guys in, because that's quite good. Triggering like Death Wish abilities will be very, very good, because if you've got a Harpy egg, you can trigger it, and then it can just produce a 5 cost 5 point card. So you put a 3 down, and you can then create another 5 point card. So that's 3 plus 5. So that's 8 points. That's pretty significant. So I don't know. That might work quite well. So as I say, you got to make sure that you've got a lot of allied units that have Death Wish. So we're going to put those 2 in as well. Noonwraith, Death Wish. You spawn 2 rats in a random enemy row. I mean, you could do that, but as I say, I don't know. I'm going to stay away from Noonwraith, to be honest, because you spawn 2 rats in the random enemy row. There are cards that you can do that help you with the number of beasts on an enemy's side, on an enemy's row, and stuff like that. So that's a different kind of deck, I think. So, and also, it's not ideal. It is a good 6 for 4, though. It is a good point card. Like, the points that it has is quite high. The Endrega eggs are pretty good, because they spawn 3 drones in the row, and that's 3 costs. So it's a 4 for 4. And what you could do is you could have this, and then you could put down one of these guys and put the Death Wish on this unit here, and then boom, you've got quite a lot there. Yeah, I don't know. They are quite a good card, but I'm not too sure. We'll put it in for now. They've got a Fiend here. Boost all Death Wish units in your hand by 1. So that's a very good card to play the minute you start the game. So if you've got a lot of Death Wish, you put that in, and boom, it boosts all your units in your hand by 1. So the Fiend could be quite good. We'll put the Fiend in. As you can see, quite low cost units here. Just low points on the board here. They're not very high point cards. So you might want to put some big cards in, like Goliath, for example, just to give you those points. And I believe the term is tempo. So you kind of want to have some high tempo cards here and there, because you've got to bear in mind you've got 2 cards here that have Thrive. So you need to make sure that you've got some units that are, providing Thrive. We've got Foglets here, so they summon all copies of this unit from your deck to this row. So that's a very good thinning card as well. So I would say put the Foglets in. You got Siren here. Deploy, boost an allied Death Wish unit by 3. That's a good little boost card there, isn't it? Because we've got a lot of Death Wish right now. So Siren could be quite good. I'm not too sure though. Deploy, spawn 2 rats in the row, spawn 2 rats in this row. So that's just spawning lots of rats. The Arc Spore, yeah, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. I kind of want to sort of steer away from. We've got very, very low points here, so I kind of want to have a look at what the consume cards are, because I've looked predominantly. All of these have Death Wish in it, so I'm going to switch up the search and have a look at consume cards and see what we can do. So the Ancient Foglet, Death Wish, summon this unit from the graveyard to the same row, boost it by 4, and give it Doomed. Okay. That could be quite good, I guess, because it's only got 1 health, so it could easily be shot down, but that's no problem. It is only a 1 cost there, isn't it? I don't know about the Foglet. Let's hold off. The Noonwraith actually might be quite good, because it's quite a high cost card, so maybe put some Noonwraiths in. But there we go. So let's move on now. Let's have a look at consume. Okay, so here we are. I don't have Haunt, do I? Oh, I thought it... Okay, I was getting confused there. Let's have a look at consume. So Osrul obviously consumes from a graveyard. I mean, Osrul is a really good card anyway, so I recommend just keeping Osrul. Every deck I see him in the deck. So I'm going to put Osrul in. However, we do need a high card unit for him to consume, so we need to think about that. If we move along, we've got the crone here, but that's only if you're playing other crone cards, which I'm not, so I'm probably not going to go for that. You've got the Barber Gazer here, Barber Gazer, not very good at pronouncing it there. So that's got an order there. That's a consume an allied unit, and that's got 2 charges. That's pretty powerful. That is pretty powerful. So that might be quite good. But do we want to have a look here, sorry. Do we actually want to have 2 of these? I don't know. Let's put 2 in there. Let's just go for it. Why not? We do have the harpies, which are really good as well, because they're obviously they have consume as well. So I would say that it's probably quite good to go for that. So let's go ahead and consume. Let's go ahead and get 2 of those. So you can see now, look, we've only really got 1 more card to spare. So this is a situation. This is what's happened, right? So you can clearly see here we're in this sticky scenario where we've only got 1 more card to put down, but we've still got a lot of provisions left over. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to sacrifice some bronze cards for some more higher value gold cards. And that's the next stage of building your deck. I mean, this is the way that I'm doing it. So as I say, if there's a certain other way, maybe you've seen another video that says it to sort of build a deck a different way, by all means, if you're more comfortable with that, go for it. This is just my sort of advice for you guys who are quite new to the game. This is a stage you're going to get at where you're going to be a bit confused and you're like, oh God, what do I get rid of? What do I get rid of? And to be honest, you just got to try and think in a scenario, how much value would that card actually give you? I know that's difficult. I know that's not much help. But you'll learn as you start to play games against opponents. You'll learn what works and what doesn't. So I need to put a couple more cards down. Now, the Bargeist here is a very good card. Because you consume an allied unit, and then if you have dominance, you consume another allied unit as an order. So that's 2 consumes for a 5/5. Now this Barbergazer, yeah, has got the same sort of thing, but it's a 6/6. However, I think the Bargeist is pretty good here because it's a deployability that you can immediately use. This order you'll have to wait. I think cards with order cannot be used for 1 turn. So it's not as good. So what I would say, I don't know, part of me thinks maybe I get rid of one of the Barbergazers and put both the Bargeists down. Or Barguests. I can't pronounce it, it's awful. So this one here is consume adjacent units. Spawn a drone in this row if each insectoid consumed. So you might want to start to change the deck to look at insectoids. So you might want to search, okay, how can I make this card even better? Because it consumes and then it spawns a drone in the row for each insectoid consumed. So the drone is the classic insectoid, the 1/1. So you know that the eggs, for example, there you go. They produce the drones. So what you could do is put him down. He consumes 2, so he gets 6/4, and then produces another 2 drones. So that becomes another 4 points on top. So you get an 8 for 4. Or what you could do is you could say, well, let me have a look at insectoid then. Let me go insectoid. And then you can see here that there's a few other cards. Like this Kikimor Warrior is quite good. Whenever you play an insectoid, you gain 1 armor. So, for example, you could play the Kikimor Warrior, and then you could get your Endredger Warrior here to consume. Or, if you're at the end of the turn, you could get the Lava here, which has Thrive. So it's not ideal sometimes getting rid of Thrive units, because you want them to keep building their Thrive points up. But maybe right at the end of the round, you want to quickly put down a Warrior that eats your larvae, and then boom. And this warrior is quite good because of the fact it consumes both. So I quite like this card. However, it's got a nasty deployability. So, you won't get the full value if you don't have a lot of cards on the board. So you kind of want to use the Endredger Warrior maybe as your sort of last card. I don't know whether or not I'd have 2 of these. I'm not too sure. But I do like the sound of these. And I like the sound of the Lava as well, because this card is very, very good. Very, very good card. And the reason it is because it has armor already, and Thrive units are very prone to getting destroyed because of the fact that they don't have armor. So this is kind of like a must-have. I don't pretty much Osral and the lava here are pretty much always in decks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to put this in the deck, and I want to try and use this warrior maybe. But then I'm thinking, do I go down an insectoid path? I don't know. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. But maybe in the future, if I try this deck out and I don't like it, maybe I want to switch it up a bit and maybe take some cards out, put some insectoid cards in, and maybe I could do some sort of Death Wish consume with insectoid, something like that. That might be quite interesting. So we shall see. Anyway, let's stop there. And you can see we've got 2 cards. We need to get rid of 2 cards, and we've got still way too many provisions. So let me have a drink. So what we need to do is we need to have a look at gold cards. So I'm going to go to ownership. I'm going to put owned. And I'm going to go ahead and put colours gold. Okay. So now I'm just looking at gold cards. So I've got Osral here. And Osral is very, very good because primarily you want to use him to consume a unit from your graveyard. And the reason it's good is because it will also trigger Thrive units as well. And we do have a few Thrive units. We've got 3 units here. And we've also got the 2 lava units there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to put Yearn in. Yearn's a very, very good card. You can see here you gain armor equal to the number of cards in your hand. So primarily you want to play him right at the start of a round. So he's very, very hard to kill. I'm going to put Yearn in. What I'm going to need to do also, as you can see I've got quite a few provisions left, is I'm probably going to need to think about what to potentially take out here. See, Fiend. Yeah, that could be okay. Let me take Fiend out because I feel like that's very situational. And you got Rot Fiend here, damaging enemy unit by 4. The Bargeist is good. Is the Harpy any good? I mean, it is just a 5/5 and it's a consume. And what's it providing? Is it providing a lot? That's the question. Same with the Harpy Egg. And that's quite good. That gives you a 5 cost unit. So you could put this guy down and then trigger a Harpy Egg. So that could be quite good. Let's just have a little think if there's anything else we can do. This is where it all comes down to it. You're thinking, okay, you know, we want the Vampire card. That's very, very good. Osral's good. We've got Yearn. Do we want Goliath in here as well? And do we want Striga as well? He's a very good card. Striga. If you have dominance. So if we're consuming a lot, then we're probably going to be gaining quite a bit of power on some cards, which means we're probably going to have quite a bit of dominance. So most likely we kind of want Striga in here. And I might put Goliath down. Let's put Goliath. Now look, we're at 0 provisions. So we've used all our provisions, but we've still got 4 cards to get rid of. So let's have a look. Let's have a look, see what we can do. The Abeya I'm thinking of getting rid of because, yes, he's got Thrive. However, we don't have a lot of high card units to try and trigger Thrive. A lot of the cards here are like 4, 5 and 3s power-wise. Let's take out Abeya. Let's have a look and see what other things we've got. Yeah, we've got Desert Banshee here and Rot Fiend. Let's see, trigger a bronze unit. Like the Endrega eggs, like, am I going to use them that much? The Endrega eggs. I think the Kikimor Warrior is a pretty good card, to be honest. I might get rid of the Barber Gaze or Barber Gaza here because the Bargeist is pretty good because he's got the deploy ability to consume. He immediately consumes. Same with the Harpy. So let me take him out. So we've got 2 more cards to take out and then we'll be back with some provisions again. So then what we're going to need to do is then potentially strip out some bronze and then put some higher card units in. So it's all this sort of messing around and stuff like that. So what I'm probably going to do is probably skip forward and show you what I've put in because it takes a little time to look at. This is kind of what you need to do. You just need to keep tinkering around until you're at a good space. Also, another thing, don't forget about neutral cards, not just faction. So have a look at your neutrals, because obviously you can see faction here. Have a look at your neutrals and think, is there anything that I could do here? And just look at all your cards for neutrals, or just what you own, and then just put all cards. There you go. So have a look at these, because there could be some here that could be quite useful for what you need to do. So we don't have any sort of... The thing is with this deck, we don't have any sort of removal. That's what worries me. We don't have something to remove a card. So we might want to get some Alzur's Thunder in there, just to help us remove some things. Yep. Maybe a Lacerate as well. Yeah. This is difficult. Because we've got the Insectoids, we've got the Warriors that's sort of working off of the Endrega eggs now. So we could sort of put that down, spawn some drones, put the Warrior down, which will consume adjacent units, spawn a drone. Yeah, that could work quite well. This is also a good one. Spawn a drone in a random allied row. Each point of excess damage dealt. Yeah, maybe not. Right guys, so we've actually managed to finally make the deck. This actually took me quite a while. So in total, this took me to go through this and sort of figure it out. It took me about 40-45 minutes. Now, I know that's quite a long time. Probably people who are quite good at the game probably thinks that's quite a long time to come up with a deck. However, with any sort of deck, when you create it and start playing against other opponents and stuff like that, you'll start to learn what works and what doesn't, and then you'll start to tinker with it, and then by that sort of time, after maybe about 4 or 5 games, you'll start to figure out what works. And as I say, there are a lot of cards here that I actually haven't even used yet. For example, the Higher Vampire and Pennington, and also Morntart here, I actually haven't used these cards at all ever playing monsters. And also the Vran Warrior, and there's a lot of cards here that I've never used before, so I'm hoping that they work. So by all means, have a quick scan of these cards if you're interested in the deck that I've built. I'm not entirely sure if this deck's going to fully work, but this is the process of building a deck. You try and get some synergies that you think will work in theory, apply that to the game, and then if anything changes, you can by all means jump back into the deck builder, tweak some things, and see what you want to do. So as I say, you can see there's a lot of Death Wish here, a lot of Consume, and also I found that I used some synergies for the Insectoid as well. So I've got the Kikimor Worker here, and I've also got the Kikimor, where is it, the Endrega Warrior here, where you consume adjacent units and you spawn a drone if it is an insectoid. So you can see that the eggs here are insectoids, you can see that the larvae, if I want to, are insectoids, and you can also see that the Kikimor workers are insectoids as well. So there's a lot of sort of synergies going on with insectoid, Death Wish, and consuming, and also there's a little bit of Thrive here as well, because you've got the Penitent, the Abeya, and obviously the Larva as well. But Thrive's quite a standard thing to have in most monster decks. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and by all means support me on Twitch via Widgie1, and support me on YouTube as well. You know what to do: like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will catch you in another video. It may be Gwent, it may be Total War, but who knows. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.